We did it, homies and dudes. We hit 15 subscribers. Welcome, welcome, new people. Yeah, let's get right into this video. We left off, Kid had just blown up his gang's house that they have been living in for quite some time because the police showed up at his front door. Because one, his house was not in the residential district like it was supposed to, so it was illegally built in the wrong place. Plus, his house was filled with drugs, and he also had a bounty on his head. We left the crater and were met by, yet again, more guards. It wasn't a huge group like the group that was out front the house, but it still was a decent bit of people. Jorgen kind of rushed forward to go take on some of them. He was fighting two of them at one time, holding his own, no problem. And the guy rushed up and helped him fight as well. I am, however, in the back and pull out my sniper rifle because I do not hit like a brick house. I set up resting the gun on my bike, take a shot, miss horribly, and by the time my turn came back around, they had already killed them. So me and Momo kind of just took off because more guards were coming. We weave our way through the city trying to go through the front gate, and then we get to the front gate and it's been locked down. Luckily for me, I know where the control room is to unlock the door. We weave our way back through the city and heads towards the tunnel that goes down into the control room area. The rest of our team ends up actually meeting us there at the tunnel with the guards still in tow. It was quite a sizable force, and we end up having some small shootout in front before we end up retreating further into the tunnels. I'm still on my bike at this time. However, the further we get down the tunnel, there is less and less gravity as we go along, so I had to ditch my bike. Another piece of equipment lost. I used the zero gravity to my advantage by sticking to the ceiling using equipment known as gecko gloves, which just mimic Gecko's ability to stick to most surfaces. And we continue down the corridor stealthily, me on the ceiling, Momo's on the floor. We get to a point in the tunnel where it actually starts to open up, where the controls actually to the door would be located at, and we hear more guards protecting the control. So we kind of just hide out of sight while we wait for our other teammates to catch up. And no plan, we just rush in and attack them, which actually ended up working out in our favor because, you know, they weren't expecting some idiots to come walking down in a corridor to a room filled with guards just to bum rush them. And like I said, the fight was pretty much in our favor. Guy was up front punching people's lights out entirely. He used two different gloves. He had one glove that was a shot glove, and the other one was this glove called a densiblast. Essentially, you activate the glove and it turns as hard as concrete. With the guards out of the way, we made our way to the control room, and it was locked. And it didn't really have like electronical components to open it up because during lockdown, they kind of disabled that, so you know the known hacker didn't get in. But like so many times during the campaign, the guy had a thing. He had a little tool known as a utility tool that could just pick locks, and he just gave it to me and I picked the lock and we got in. However, opening the doors was a completely different story. My DM, who was rolling against me when I tried to hack the system to open the doors, kept critting, so I couldn't get past their systems. We end up coming up with another plan, which is just to completely cut the power to the system, except they had them in two separate locations. Luckily for us, though, they were connected by the ventilation system, and whose character is super small. So the kid made his way through the ventilation system and into the power room. Hacking into the power system was so much easier. I ended up critting myself and getting in. However, if I wanted to shut down the systems and make it not look super sketchy, I had to give it a reason why the system was resetting, which we ended up going with instead of completely shutting the power down. The reason for the power outage that I ended up going with was the systems was shutting down for maintenance. So we ended up making our way quickly back to the front gate because we only had a set amount of time before the power turned back on, hence all the doors would close back. However, there is a front desk area, I guess you could call it, for the asteroid colony, that there's one guy who controls who goes in and out, and it's set up on a separate grid. Since I'm the more sneaky of our group, they end up sending me in and I climb along the ceiling using my gecko gloves once again and end up sneaking in over top of the dude who's right in front of this separate control panel he has to control like who gets to dock their ships where, who comes in through the front gates, blah 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 blah. Now the plan that I was going to go with was to land on top of his head and try and choke him out or something along those lines. However, it did not go that way at all. I dropped, and as I was aiming for his head, I crit failed. So instead, I fell about 40 feet straight into the metal floor, completely shattering my pelvis, and my character instantly knocks unconscious because I failed the, I guess you could call it a constitution save because I don't actually remember what it's called. And before he could push like the alarm button to, you know, signal that some people who weren't supposed to be escaping were trying to leave, the rest of my team rushes in. Guy once again has a thing and puts this bag over top of his head that cuts off all communication of any type. He cannot see, he can't hear, or anything outside of the bag, and we just kind of tie him to his desk chair. So they end up scooping up my crumpled body, and they end up convincing some guy to let us rent his ship from him so that we can go rendezvous with Firewall. And that's about where session 2 ended. But yeah, welcome new people. Hopefully you're enjoying the content, you know, having a grand old time listening to these here stories. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Jar of Wizard. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, drop a like, maybe leave a comment, share it with your Uncle Bob. I don't know. You guys have a nice day. Bye.